Alrighty then, everybody. Hello, welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. I hope everyone is having a great day on this Wednesday, September 7th of 2022. Before I say hello to David, which I really don't want to do, before I do that, we are going to get out of the way, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth if you like it. Go follow us on the socials at the Alex Cuesta Show. And now I can get into the unfun stuff. Hi, Dave. You're not very fun. How are you?
I'm currently playing with my keyboard.
Why would you be doing such a thing?
I have a very thin piece of paper, and I'm seeing how it fits in between the keys. I don't know why I'm doing that. I think it's part of concentration. But, yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Spacebar is a lot more sensitive than everything else.
So Dave's being productive as usual. But Dave, you have fallen into kind of a wormhole that you are wearing currently, and you are spending a good amount of your money.
I'm not wearing a wormhole.
On doing what? What is your current fad or fashion?
Soccer jerseys.
Do you say it right? It's their football kits. Okay.
No, the kit's the full thing. Kit's the full uniform.
I still consider it part of the kit.
You can say kit, but it's the full uniform. So that's why I don't normally say it. I either say shirt or jersey.
Mr. Technical.
But yeah, no, I enjoy them, and since I'm now getting into soccer, I want to get the.
There's no need for that accent. Nobody but white Americans say soccer.
No, I know that. That's why I did it. But since I'm now getting into watching more of it, I want to get jerseys and or shirts and or kits of all the teams that I enjoy. Plus, I just think that they have some of the more fashionable uniforms out of almost all the sports, so it's just fun to grab those.
They certainly do. Who do you have so far, so that people can know what you got? And if you remember which kit it is, tell them so I can go look it up.
Right now, I am wearing last year's Tigres kit. Tigres is in the Mexican League. UANL Tigres.
Liga MX is what it is. The Liga MX.
Yes.
If you want to look it up.
I also have Ajax. I can't remember what year. But it is their special Bob Marley edition jersey, which is very nice.
Cool looking.
And I have on order Crystal Palace's third kit from this year. That should be coming in soon because it was a pre-order because the third kit, I believe, is coming out this month to actually be sent out.
I think one of the coolest reasons and why soccer jerseys, kits, shirts, whatever you want to call them, are as cool and unique as they are is because there's no one brand that they have to use in order to create these kits. So you have Puma, Adidas, Nike, Diadora, like all these brands. Mizuno, I think, is in there, just competing to make cool jerseys. And Kappa's a huge one around the world. They make some nice jerseys. So I don't know if Umbro still does it, but Umbro was a pretty big one for a long time. But
I thought they did.
I think they do. But it's just there's a legitimate competition. Yeah. Between making kits, and the supporters really choose which ones they really like, and they could tell by the sales. And just the necessary creativity to make shirts, make jerseys, kits, uniforms in general that your supporters can get behind. That is, whether it's sticking to the classic supporters colors and making a little bit variation there, or going out in left field but still keeping the feel of the team. And I think one of the best teams to do it, you have the Ajax jersey. Ajax doesn't miss. Whoever creates theirs, they have had the best kits since I've been following soccer since I was young. I've always liked it. They don't miss. Either they go with the classic checkers, which if you see a checkers jersey, it's most likely Ajax because it's one of the most famous jerseys in all soccer. But yeah, it's an interesting world to jump in, and I have not jumped into that yet because I like my bank account, and I have 2 other mouths to feed. So when you have young children, you have to think a little bit extra. Yeah, I just stick to t-shirts. But yeah, cool. That's David's little fad that he has going on.
I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it very much.
You are enjoying it. Me, on the other side, I have nothing new to offer in terms of my life. I'm back to work, which is nice. But yeah, just kind of staying alive. But what we do have to offer today, Dave, is a little bit of anger from all sides. today we are going to talk about what is being dubbed by, I guess, people on the right, if you want to call it that, and not even people on the right, kind of anybody with any sort of logical common sense, the red sermon. And I think I first heard that from Robert Barnes. I think Barnes is the first one. I think he might be the one that coined red sermon, or maybe Jack Posobiec. Someone called it that first, and it's been going around. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, it is Joe Biden's recent speech. I believe it's now 4 or 5 days ago. Recent speech where he quite literally goes off in the best way that Joe Biden can, goes off on quote unquote MAGA Republicans. And now it's 6 days ago. It's September 1st he gave the speech, but goes off on MAGA Republicans and created that name. Honestly, MAGA Republicans were not an actual thing really before September 1st. There was, Donald Trump supporters, people that, supported MAGA, American First Republicans. MAGA Republicans is something new, and they've been trying to do a branding thing for a little bit now with Joe Biden saying, ultra MAGA and things like that. So they've really been working on trying to brand a quote unquote extremist sect of the Republican Party and of the right. They've been failing utterly. And if we saw with a lot of the elections over the past month, they've been failing a lot. They've had a few surprise wins on the Democrat side. Over here with me in New York, we have a bunch of idiots in New York that decided that going with a leftist was better than going with the guy that's proven to help the area. But that's one of the small minor victories. They've had some surprise ones, but for the most part, Trump's picks, I think he's 99% on anyone he's endorsed throughout the primary so far.
I think it's 99, but it's in the 90s.
It was somewhere high. Last time when I listened to Timcast, and they said, and this was a little bit ago, his percentage was at 99.7% for those he's endorsed this season. Maybe it dropped a little. I don't know, because I don't know if he endorsed Sarah Palin. Sarah Palin lost, but still, it's high, and it's definitely something to take note of, because Dave, what was the message this whole time from the left so far leading up to these primaries? MAGA's extreme. The voters are going to get back to voting for your regular Republicans. MAGA's bad. Don't do MAGA. And then what happens? Your Trump Republicans are doing very well. And what that tells the leftists, and what that tells mostly everyone, is this is the mainstream theory of the right. What Donald Trump represents is actual policy, his actual words, not what they make him out to be, but his actual theory is what the right represents. And I think it's more of the fact that he's willing to fight. And I think people believe he's picking people that are like him in a way, that are willing to fight. And they trust that. So they're not doing a good job branding. And I've heard that a lot of people are saying that this is kind of Joe Biden and the left's last death throes, trying to do this type of speech to rally their base, to try and, because all we hear, I don't know, Dave, have you listened to any sort of corporate leftist media lately where all the time they're just saying, like, how good Democrats are doing, how the polls are tightening, how they're on the rise, and it's just continue with that messaging because they're scared, Dave. What do you kind of think, just basis of this? Not really. We're going to go into the speech a little more, but just kind of out front, what's your kind of opinion here? So
I haven't listened. I really don't listen to any of like corporate, mainstream, whatever you want to call it, media. Mainly because I just go on Twitter and I can just see what they're going to say anyway. It's whatever is going to be top on Twitter is probably what they're saying. So but I already know that as soon as he gave the speech, seeing some of the stuff from it, that there are going to be those that completely praise it no matter what. And then there are going to be those, especially on the right. I mean, no matter, we're going to go through the speech and some of the stuff he's saying, which interestingly enough, I will say, this is actually kind of similar to things he said before, but it's at a very different light, both literally and metaphorically. Yeah. Especially because I'm pretty sure this speech was like I don't know if it was dubbed this beforehand, but it was like for the soul of America, quote unquote. The name of it is Soul of a Nation. Soul of a Nation. We'll talk about that before we get going, Dave. There you go. But that's the thing, is like it's in a very different light when you're giving a speech under that context, even though a lot of what he said in this speech is some basically stuff he said before in other speeches. Yeah. But either way, you were going to get people on the right that were going to trash the speech. But I mean, he gave them all the ammo possible, no matter what. Like, so it's hard to even go against what a lot of people are saying about the speech, because I mean, it's wild, and especially coming from an old doddering man in the optics that they put him in. It is some of the wildest stuff you could possibly see, because a part of you, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming people have seen the pictures from the speech where he is bathed in a red light and a red glow with his fists in the air, looking like he's shouting with two Marines in the back.
I posted
in the darkness. It's you have to wonder what is happening with his team, because it's amazing that you could even make that mistake.
It's not a mistake.
That's the thing, is that you have to ask yourself, is that a mistake or is it not a mistake?
No. Because
they're also trying to lean into this whole dark Brandon meme. They're trying to lean into this weird meme that, because they saw people messing around with like Ultra MAGA and, you know, the Trump with the laser eyes, and they think it's cool to jump on that bandwagon, even though that base would know nothing about that kind of culture. For
they
Biden,
also can't meme.
Whatever base he has knows nothing about that kind of culture, so it makes no sense to lean into that. But that's what you get with people who are just connected completely to the internet. They're not even connected to real life at all. They're connected completely to the internet.
I have a quick difference in opinion on that. I think the Dark Brandon thing is kind of like the Twitter trying to move that. I think that's all intentional.
That's his team, dude.
But it's his team, but it's also, you see his little neophytes on Twitter that are all on his side and his loyalists. They're saying it, but I think it's all intentional, because what do you automatically, when you see the red lighting and you see him standing up there with the Marines in the back, I think North Korea, I think China, I think Russia, I think Germany, I think Italy, I think Cuba, Venezuela. I think all these leftist communist dictators giving a speech up there with the similar type of imagery. And if we know anything about this current leftist group, Dave, is that's who they are. They are leftist. They are communist. They are socialist. I don't think this was by mistake at all. I think this was designed to kind of lean into that leftist base a little more and kind of give them the imagery that they want of a strong socialist leftist leader. And he gave the speech that fits all of that. I think that this was a cry, and they talk about Donald Trump rallying his extremists. I think this was a cry to the extremists on the left. And the imagery in the speech and everything it was dividing, making an us versus them. They've been doing it now subtly. It's been done online a lot. Like you said, Biden has hinted at it. He's officially created an official.
He hasn't hinted at it. He's already made the us versus them,
but not in this much of a way. And he's made it official. He's drawn the line of us versus them.
But go ahead. Yet again, he actually has already done that. That's the thing, though. He literally has done that already. It's just, yet again, he's done it in the worst optics possible, or maybe the best optics possible, depending on how they want to look at it. But I do have to disagree with the way you're putting it, because so the people who in any way, shape, or form even like Biden or like this regime are older people. They're not younger people. I'm going to tell you that.
They're also still communist.
Yes, but whatever base of that he would try to reach through that is so small that it would do actually nothing. Like, it's not like he's reaching Antifa or whatever. Like, he's not reaching them through this. That's not what he's doing at all. That's why I'm saying, like, I get what you're saying, because it does it does look really bad. But to me, I'm telling you right now, especially with this, I have the feeling that it's a bunch of people who are trying to lean into this kind of meme-ish culture while giving this divisive speech, because that's what they believe. They do believe that MAGA Republicans are going after what they see as the American democracy, and that's
and it
what
could be a mix of both. And honestly, we could both be right here. We could both be right, where it is a bunch of leftists and a bunch of socialist communists writing this stuff for him. So obviously they think the imagery is good. They think it's going to touch on certain things, and then they're going to use the meme to try and get with the younger group, because that's what the Republicans have done well with. Not even the Republicans, fuck the Republicans. What the conservatives and the people on the right have done well since the start of Trump, and even a little bit before Trump, is they've gotten that grassroots ability to meme. And the memeing has brought the younger crowd, the younger conservative and right-leaning crowd, and even some disenfranchised, artistic types on the left have started to all come together through meme. And, which is why they banned Pepe, which is why they did so many things to try and downplay it. And the left doesn't have that power. They still have the culture. They still have music and TV and things like that, but they don't have internet memes. Their internet culture is behind where the right is.
It's funny enough, because I know we want to talk about the speech a lot, but we're kind of veering off.
No, but this is okay. This is part of it.
No, I know. But to me, especially when it comes to like this speech and why people have gotten pushed to the right. Yes, it is partly because the right seems to be able to meme a lot more than the left right now.
Memes are effective.
Because the left is wall of text. But another reason is the fact that a lot of people that we'll call leftists or whatever that are coming into these groups and basically, I mean, they want to complain about gatekeeping, but they're the ones that end up doing it themselves because they come in the middle of whatever kind of group, whether it's comics, whether it's movies, whether it's politics, honestly.
Anything cultural.
Anything cultural, they come in and they tell you what they don't like that you're doing, and then they end up pushing people out. And then those people end up basically being quote unquote on the right, even though the policies that they might go for aren't really necessarily on the right of the spectrum. It's just that they don't agree with being pushed out or being censored of the thing that they enjoy doing in the first place.
Anything that isn't Stalin communist is considered on the right now. Honestly, anything that isn't super far left right now is considered communist. Like, I mentioned Tim Cass before, but Tim Pool's a good example. James Lindsay's a good example. Guys like Brett Weinstein are great examples, because those three gentlemen that are now considered right extremists are not on the right. Dave, you and I probably wouldn't agree with Tim Pool on policy on a lot of things in terms of what we'd want to do, because he's not that, he was an Occupy Wall Street guy. James Lindsay voted for Obama twice and still believes in a lot of things Obama said. Brett Weinstein was a very leftist guy at Evergreen College. So it's like none of these people are actually conservative. And that also goes a lot with Donald Trump. And they keep on trying to put him in this light. Donald Trump is not a very mega right-wing conservative. That's not who he is. I mean, the guy was a Democrat up until 2014. He donated to Clinton Foundation. He was chummy with the Clintons. Like, he went to Chelsea Clinton's wedding, for crying out loud. I get it. He's a New York guy, and she was living in New York at the time. It's kind of who's who, but still, that has purpose. So, I don't know. Dave, do you want to jump into the speech? We'll read some quotes and we'll kind of talk about those right now.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay. Do you have anything more to add before we get going? Let's kind of lay the foundation here.
I can jump off of other things for this speech because I don't have much more to add to that in general.
Okay. All right. So let's get started. So he jumps into the speech. The first 10 minutes, he said a lot of nothing. A whole lot of nothing. He tried to set the stage. He used "we the people" a ton. A kind of a theme was him talking about "we the people." It's such a bizarre speech because people are usually using that term when they're trying to talk about unity, right, Dave? Mm-hmm. You talk about the "we the people" and how they did that. That was meant when it was put on the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, all that type of stuff. Whenever they mentioned the people, they meant as a whole, not to fracture it. Mm-hmm. And he's using that to kind of set up fracturing. It's weird. It was a bizarre thing to do. The first quote I want to talk to, after he kind of sets it up, he talks about all of the things that America has gone through, the Civil War, suffrage, Great Depression, World Wars, civil rights, all that type of stuff, and how prosperous we've been. And then he gets down to the nitty gritty, and here's where the speech really takes off. This quote really takes off. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic. So that right there, Dave, to me, that right there starts it off right away, because we've heard attacks on Donald Trump himself. Mm-hmm. We've heard attacks on Donald Trump's political picks. We've heard attacks on, just the culture of quote unquote ultra MAGA. This is the first explicit time, though, that he has said that the supporters of a politician, a former president, represents an extremism that threatens the foundations of our republic. Mm-hmm. And I'll mind you, I think this is maybe 1 or 2 times that he's used the term republic. Mm-hmm. Every other time after this, he refers to us as a democracy. But he's saying that right there, like I said, Dave, this is the first time to me he's explicitly drawn that lines and has explicitly attacked people like you and me that just voted for Donald Trump. They're lumping anybody that voted for Donald Trump, 74 million people, and definitely much larger now because a lot of people have switched parties because of how bad Biden's been. That's almost a third of the nation that right there in that moment he called out. Hearing that, Dave, what did you get out of that? When you first heard that, did you get the same reaction? Like, this motherfucker just called out a third of the nation.
Well, it's interesting because he tries to play it like a lot of people aren't actually MAGA Republicans. I don't know if it's before or after he said that.
The next one, he says, I'll read it real quick. Now, I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. Mm-hmm. So, and go ahead, Dave.
Now, if you want to take it in, let's say if you want to take it in the nicest way possible, he is actually referring to Congress. Because technically, if he is referring to Congress, then majority of Republicans in Congress aren't MAGA Republicans. That's just completely correct. Mm-hmm. That is a completely correct statement if he is referring to Congress, which he could be. I mean, he could be doing that. I mean, but yet again, the optics of it, referring to Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans, of course, you're going to hear...
The context doesn't lean that way.
Exactly. It sounds like he's talking about every supporter, which, I mean, in his mind, in his team's mind, they could believe that even though a lot of people voted for him, that apparently MAGA Republicans are still a small amount of the nation.
And how can you believe that after these last primaries?
Well, that's the thing. It makes no sense for him to say that. But yet again, could he be referring to Congress? He could be. But it doesn't seem like that with what he's saying. That's fair. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying, like, if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt the most, that's what he's referring to. I don't think that's what he's referring to. It's not what it seems like he's referring to. So it's really weird. I mean, I guess in some political context, I could see why you would do that. But for me, it just doesn't. I don't see that really working coming November. I do not see it working coming November, especially because gas is going down. So why wouldn't you even just tout that a little bit? Yeah, people are going to say, oh, but it's still 3 something, or it's still around $3. But the thing is, he can at least say, oh, it's going down. He's not working off of what he's doing. He's working off of attacking Donald Trump, who's been out of office.
And he didn't mention the economy. He barely mentioned. He mentioned it once towards the end. Yeah, but it wasn't really a thing he focused on in this. And speech was not about that.
And that's the thing. It's not about that, which is, and I get it's for the soul of the nation, but whatever. Like, I just don't understand, because this is for the November elections. This is 100% for that. It just doesn't make sense to me, especially right now politically, to try to make this stand against a bunch of people that don't like you, man. Even in this speech, even during this speech, I believe someone was chanting "fuck Joe Biden." So, like, it's not going to work to do that. It makes no sense for me to give this speech instead of just touting some good thing that's happening. One good thing that's happening, I feel like, helps you a lot more than doing what he did here.
And so I'll go on to the next quote, not too much further down. James Lindsay quotes the iron law of woke projection, and this whole speech is full of it. And this is one of the moments where iron law woke projection here. Mm-hmm. Here's the quote. They refuse to accept the results of a free election, and they're working right now, as I speak, in state after state to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies, empowering election deniers to undermine democracy itself. MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, to no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love. They promote authoritarian leaders, and they fan the flames of political violence that are a threat to our personal rights, to the pursuit of justice, to the rule of law, to the very soul of the country. So right there, Dave, just those 3 paragraphs. When you were saying you want to give him the benefit of doubt, maybe he's talking about Congress. This is the proof in the pudding. He's not. Mm-hmm. He's talking about the everyday voter. He's talking about the everyday supporter. And right here, he's telling the everyday supporter that they don't know what the fuck they're doing, that they don't know what they're voting for. They're too stupid to understand what they're voting for. And then even that first paragraph, refuse to accept the results of a free election. There is the Republicans actually did something good. They put out a 12-minute video on YouTube. You can still go search it, of all the times over just since 2000 that important people on the left have publicly refused to accept free and fair elections by saying that they cheated. It was stolen. Election machines were bad. All these types of things going on. They did it all. And when it comes to going state after state to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies, they think that the people on the right have short memories. Now, the people on the left, I should look this up. If anyone on the left is listening to this, go look it up, because you haven't been told this. But after 2016, when the FBI was saying this is never going to happen again, when the journalists were saying this is never going to happen again, there was another gentleman by the name of George Soros. And I know you know that name if you're on the left, and right now you're rolling your eyes. He's a boogeyman. But what he did was factual here. He worked intelligently, because it's a smart thing to do, because the right is always behind on this type of shit. But he went into battleground states, purple states, close states, and worked to either flip the AGs, put a ton of money behind it to get sympathetic attorney generals, which would then affect election law and change election law. And with the mail-in voting, it was a huge opportunity to do so. They made a bunch of laws in battleground states. Go look up new AGs 2020 election and the new election laws for 2020. And there's a ton of them. And they all favor the left.
Didn't he literally write a piece talking about how he did this?
Yes. He didn't. He went on an interview. And I think he wrote a piece. He did both. He bragged about it. And I even think there's a New Yorker article that wrote about this as a strategy.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's not out in the open, but people just refuse to read it. So talking about altering power in the states.
Really,
it's already happened.
It's a very intelligent move.
It's great. And that's why I said the right's always behind on this. What Biden's referring to is the fact that a lot of Republicans and people on the right just wanted to turn the laws back to before COVID time, to take away all the power of mail-in voting, because it shouldn't be a massive thing, to go back to absentee voting, to go back to in-person voting. So you have to request an absentee ballot. It's not just sent to you. You have to come in and vote. And, if you watch 2,000 Mules, which has been proven correct now because the geolocation has actually been proven forensically correct. So go watch 2,000 Mules by Dinesh D'Souza. It's free on Rumble. You could search for it. Just that itself is bullshit. And he's projecting. And then talking about MAGA forces wanting to take the country backwards. He's leaning into the abortion battle and fooling the people that know very little that Roe versus Wade actually ended abortion rights, which it didn't at all. It just sent it back to the states. And if you're in a state where they might make abortion illegal, which no state has, I think only one state has made it criminal, and I think it might be Louisiana. And if that's the case, I promise you guys that's going to lose in Supreme Court. That's going to lose in the Supreme Court. So take heart. You're going to get your abortion back there. So that's another one. And then this last paragraph here, promote authoritarian leaders, might be the funniest thing the quote he had. With the speech he's giving, by far in my 33 years of life, in my, maybe I was aware during the Bush years. I got political during Bush. Honestly, I was in 2000. I was 12. Dad was always very involved in politics. That's when I perked up to politics. It was right around then. And this is the most authoritarian speech I have ever heard an American president give, and it's not even close. Worse than Obama. Bush really didn't give any of these. Trump didn't give any of these. Trump said some dumb things, but it wasn't like this. The furthest maybe he went was when he said, maybe I'll make California do something by executive order. And everyone said no to that. That's the only thing he's ever did. Fanning the flames of political violence that are a threat to our personal rights. They think that we don't remember the summer of love. They really don't. where cities burnt down. And there's going to be more of that later. But just these 3 paragraphs, Dave, another one. This is more just the beginning of the speech too, Dave. I don't even know what more to say on that.
Yeah, I mean, all he's trying. This is a speech specifically. It's specifically to unite those in his base. It is a speech of unity. It's to unite those in his base against a certain side, against a certain aisle. That's exactly what it is. So, I mean, it is true that he's trying to unite people. He's just not trying to unite everyone, because Donald Trump is still a huge threat looming in 2024. He is a huge threat looming, even though he's also old as hell. It's still a huge threat looming. So they need to do everything they can to stop any damage from these November elections coming up, and also already put in the time for 2024.
Well, they're going to get him with empty folders. They got him this time. Walls are closing in with empty folders. If you don't know anything about that, go look up the Mar-a-Lago rate update. Anyway, another quote I want to jump to, because this quote, it's a short paragraph, but to me it's important because, again, it tells us that they think we're stupid. Here's a quote. And yet history tells us that blind loyalty to a single leader and a willingness to engage in political violence is fatal to democracy. They think that we forget the Obama years. They really do. They think that we forgot the Obama lead up when he was the junior senator that everyone loved. And there was actual dudes having orgasms on fucking screen, on TV, crying, people fainting at his rallies, treating it like it's this religious sermon. You want to talk about a cult?
He was the Beatles, man.
He was. And they made him out to be this big thing. Chris Matthews quite literally had an orgasm on screen, just talking about him. And just go back. Go back and just, YouTube probably has it. Look up the way they talked about Obama coming up, and look up Obama's rallies. I mean, it was a religious movement.
Look up what they say about him right now.
Yeah. God.
They will 100% down talk Biden right now while in his presidency over down talking Obama.
Yes.
100% they would do that.
The only thing that says a far leftist will say he wasn't left enough. And that's honestly, any leftist says that.
No, the only the people who will say something about Obama are those that were very against anything American interventionists, anything American wartime, because they thought Obama might have actually stopped some of it, and yet he droned more than
progressed more of it than any president.
Yeah, so they will 100% say something about that. They are not disillusioned on everything that happened in the Obama presidency. But I mean, there's still people that are saying the only Obama scandal was him wearing like fucking a tan tie or something like that.
Which is bullshit, because Fast and Furious, you have Rob Emanuel actually not lying and not paying taxes. There were plenty of scandals under Barack Obama, and he killed a lot of innocent people with those drone strikes. Even though I'm a person who was okay with the drone strikes, I didn't mind it. It upgraded our use of it, and it got out a ton of targets. But just the fact that he's saying that blind loyalty to a singular leader, there was no leader like Obama that people were singularly devoted to since, I think, FDR. And then the willingness to engage in political violence is fatal to our democracy, which I have to pick that apart. But in willingness to engage, how many times did Obama rush to judgment when a quote unquote innocent black person was shot? And we found out a lot of them weren't very innocent, number one. But number two, he rushed, got on a podium, said something. And what happened, Dave? The very next few hours, riots in the streets, cops' cars being overturned, fires, people being killed, all that type of thing that happened under him. And he stoked that flame. There has been no more divisive president than Barack Obama. Not Donald Trump, even not Joe Biden, even though he's about to get there. Barack Obama created the most division in this country out of any other president I've ever seen. And that's just a fact. And then the last thing is fatal to democracy. Good, because we're not one. Because they want us to be a democracy so bad. And he says it enough times here. But we want things to be fatal to democracy because we want to continue to keep our constitutional republic. Because democracies and republics are not the same. And I'll say it as a broken record. So, Dave, anything else on that?
No.
Let's go on to the next quote here. Here it is. So I want to say this, plain and simple. There is no place for political violence in America. Period. None. ever kind of piggybacks on what I just said with, I mean, the summer of love, Kamala Harris campaigning and raising money to get BLM rioters out of the way, and BLM is imploding, and that's fucking hilarious right now. Go look, BLM suing itself. It's amazing. But just, you know, the rioters and the BLM movements and all that type of stuff. And where was Joe Biden as knew he was running for president, coming out and condemning the riots? Where was Vice President Kamala Harris coming out and condemning the riots and, you know, saying, you know, even as much to go as protesting is fine, rioting is bad? We didn't even hear that from them. What did we hear? Rioting is the voice of the unheard. We heard, you know, quotes like that these are the people that have been underserved and underrepresented, and they're just making their voices heard because they don't have one. And that's okay. This is also a dude that eulogized a KKK Grand Cyclops. Okay. Talk about not being a fan of violence. This is also a guy who was Barack Obama's vice president, who launched his career with Bill Ayers, who was a Weather Underground bomber terrorist. So these people, they're hypocrites. This is a straight up hypocritical thing for him to say. And it's like we can't remember the past. They think we're stupid and that they're just the elite. Dave, anything for that one?
So to put it in who he's directing it to, though, that actually did not happen the way that we saw it to those that he's speaking to. To those that he's speaking to, it wasn't, maybe there was a riot here and there, but it wasn't this huge event where there was like 100 nights of riots. But they don't know about that. There's probably people who don't even know about Chaz. So that's the thing. To those he's speaking to, that's completely correct, because it's really only the right that they've seen that have done anything that have done anything that comes to political violence, because they probably do not know or only know very little of what happened during the summer of 2020. So yet again, to who he's speaking to, that's why it says applause in the script right here, because they didn't see, or they just weren't shown everything that happened, and two, it was much more justified, some of the things that they did see, because of certain reasons. Well, you could see why they did it, so it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, that's the way they will spin it and justify it. That's true. Moving on just a little bit further down the speech here. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. They're incompatible.
I gotta give it funny to them to put that. They actually did put that
the stammers in. Yeah, they put the stammer in the transcript. So I'm not making fun of Biden. I call him Biden in this one, but they are, because they're making fun of him, which is fantastic. Dave, what's wrong with that one? Because this is not knowing your history.
I'll give him props for that, though, for putting the stammer in. I meant,
yeah, but
I got to give him props for putting a stammer. No, but there is an issue with that, because America is literally an insurrectionist country. Like,
so yes,
we literally went to war with the home country to tell them to F off. That was the whole point.
And the funny thing is, so when I heard that, I thought of that. And then I was listening to podcast of Lotus Eaters, which is fantastic podcast over the pond in the UK. I recommend anyone go listen to podcast of Lotus Eaters. They're fantastic, but they're British. And when they were talking about the speech, they actually mentioned, they're just like, this is factually incorrect. America was ours, and they had an insurrection and against the king and the crown, and then became their own country. So yes, it's actually the most American thing you can be, is pro-insurrection. So again, Biden, his speechwriters are probably in their 20s and just stupid and forget that we're an insurrection. That's actually a funny one. So here's another one that I actually hate this whole quote, because let's do this. We're a big, complicated country, but democracy endures only if we, the people, respect the guardrails of republic. Only if we, the people, accept the results of free and fair elections. Only if we, the people, see politics not as total war, but as mediation of our differences. Democracy cannot survive when one side believes that there are only two outcomes to an election: Either they win or they were cheated. And that's where MAGA Republicans are today. They don't understand what every patriotic American knows. You can't love your country only when you win. It's fundamental. Dave, you look like you had a reaction.
Well, no, I mean, not to repeat what we said before, because I don't want to repeat just over and over again. Like, they already have complained saying that they were cheated before. Now, and there's no reason to really repeat that. But it's just really interesting because that quote, that little paragraph, those sentences, if it wasn't after everything else he said, it's really not that bad.
No.
But because you're this far in a speech, you've already destroyed the MAGA Republicans, as you put them, and you even bring them up again.
Yep.
It's hard to just grasp why you're saying this now after you already demonized a good portion of the country. Even if you think like it's okay, it's not a majority of Republicans, it's still a good portion of the country, no matter what. So it's baffling, at least from our perspective, to see why you would say this at this point in the speech. It just doesn't make any sense.
It is baffling. And if, like I said, Dave doesn't want to rehash it. I don't want to either. To continue to go that they have denied elections a ton. And if anyone's interested in the YouTube video we mentioned, I'll be putting it on our Alex Cuesta Show Facebook page and stuff with this quote attached, just so you can kind of see the hypocrisy. But yeah, like you said, I guess on its own, it's not a bad quote. It really isn't. And besides the fact about democracy indoors and everything, because we know what they're doing when they constantly say democracy. They're looking for Marxist democracy, the democracy of the proletariat. That's exactly what they're looking for here when they constantly say it.
But even let's say even if they're not saying it, but what they are saying is what we have right now, which is not exactly the way our republic is supposed to run, because our government's a little bit too saturated with things that just aren't.
We're a little more of an oligarchy in anything right now.
That's the hook. Sorry, that was weird. My spot just said something to me.
It knows you're talking very, very right-leaning, and now the FBI has been reported on both of us.
I didn't like that very much.
That was like when we were talking, what was it, ID.me or the CBDCs, and all of a sudden it went crazy. The government knows we're definitely targeted. We're fine.
It's whatever.
100%.
But either way, it's just when they're saying democracy, yes, it's at least partially incorrect, because the republic technically. We have a democratic republic.
It's through democratic means. Yes, it's not a democracy.
It's not a democracy, yes. But the thing is that they're just referring to what is currently in power, not exactly what. No, but not. I mean, I can see exactly where you're coming from, because a lot of them want.
So YouTube, don't take this down because of this, but. They have groomed, and I'm not saying it in that sense, relax YouTube, but they have groomed generations of people that this is a democracy.
Yes, they have.
And we learned that in school, and it's not factually correct.
Even though I will say I did learn it was a democratic republic. I did not learn democracy.
Yeah, but then after that, a lot of times it was referred to as we have a democracy. We've heard that through a lot of history teachers. So we've been groomed through that. And that's not unintentional when you know about what's gone on in higher learning and how it's been trickled down and that the fact that leftists have taken it over.
Yeah.
That's not a mistake.
Yes,
so everything that's going on here is just fitting in. I get what you're saying. Mm-hmm. You're kind of trying to play like you're giving more benefit of doubt than I want to, and that's okay.
Yes.
But
I feel like that's fair to do.
Why do we need to be fair?
We don't have to.
The leftists are never fair. So why do we have to be fair?
But it's much more fun to at least give that perspective.
I guess you justify some of these idiots continuing to vote for Biden. But so I mean, just those three quotes, you could leave them alone as it is and just kind of get the whole tenor of the speech, because it really is. It's the us and them. So let's keep going, because like Dave said, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we have another pretty important one here that going through with this quote. I will not stand by and watch. I will not. The will of by the way, he can't speak at all. I will not stand by and watch. I will not. The will of the American people be overturned by wild conspiracy theories and baseless, evidence-free claims of fraud. I will not stand by and watch elections in this country be stolen by people who simply refuse to accept that they lost. I will not stand by and watch the most fundamental freedoms in this country, the freedom to vote and have your vote counted, and be taken from you and the American people. Again, Dave, kind of rehashing with them saying that they cheated and stuff like that, but just the wild conspiracy theories and baseless evidence-free claims of fraud. Did we not go through 4 years of Russiagate and the Mueller report, and every single time the walls were closing in on Trump? How many times I think there is a montage of all the times the leftist networks on TV would say the walls are closing in, the walls are closing in. It's the end for the walls are closing in. There's 4 years of that. 4 years of that. And everything that they've done is baseless, even counting now this Mar-a-Lago raid that we were first told he didn't give back documents. Then we were told there were nuclear documents. Now then we saw the stupid picture where everyone else is a moron if they don't realize that, if they actually spread out confidential and fully classified documents, and that those people that did it should go to jail. But they weren't, and they knew they weren't. They knew they were empty files when they did it. And now we find out that the files that they had that were labeled classified were empty. And it's just like, besides the fact that Donald Trump, as the sitting president, could declassify any of that and could take it with him. And he has since stated that when he brought them to Mar-a-Lago, he worked with some federal archivists that told him how to store it. So there's that. But it's just, again, iron law woke projection. Thank you, James Lindsay, for that. Iron law work projection is here. Yeah. All they did was 4 years for wild, baseless conspiracies. The whole entire Steele dossier is one wild, baseless conspiracy, evidence-free. And, at least if you want to talk about the election stuff, I mean, it really gets hurt by people like Rudy Giuliani, and I forget that other person.
Sidney Powell.
Sidney Powell and Lee Linwood.
Thank you.
They made it very easy for this claim to be kind of, it's baseless because they said a bunch of dumb shit about the Dominion machines. Mm-hmm. And whether or not there were any problems with the Dominion machines, which there were factually some issues with the Dominion machines. But they took it so over the top that they made it easy for these claims to be made that everything was baseless. Mm-hmm. And now that Dinesh D'Souza comes out with 2,000 Mules, which isn't baseless about, stacking and kind of ballot harvesting, they still can ignore it. But then they say this, and it's like, again, just projecting, because we had 4 years of not my president and just all these wild claims, and they're refusing to accept that they lost. We've seen it. Hillary still refuses to say that she lost. Stacey Abrams still refuses to say that she lost. Al Gore still refuses to say that he lost. John Kerry still says there was a problem in the Ohio machines, and that's why he lost. Terry McAuliffe still to this day will go on stage and say that Al Gore should have been president. It's not even, you don't have to look hard to find it, Dave. That's the problem. You don't have to look hard or have a really good memory to fucking think about this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, I could probably make an argument that the most fundamental freedom in this country is not the freedom to vote. It's actually the freedom of speech.
Or the freedom to bear arms. Those two probably are arms. Religion. There's a few of them that are higher.
I could probably argue that those are more fundamental freedoms in this country.
Are you going to take the Eric July stance that it's not actually a fundamental freedom at all?
and the thing is that he makes a claim and be taken from you and the American people. But every time they've made this kind of claim that they're taking away a right to vote, it's for things that most people, when you bring it up to them, they're just like, yeah, that's fine. Like having an ID to vote. Or something like it's just something.
If you're a murderer, you can't vote anymore.
Yeah, or just just something in that vein.
Yeah,
and most people are just like, yeah, why? That's no problem. And that's usually what they pound on to say, oh, they're taking away your right to vote. So it's a really weird. It's just a really weird claim to make. I mean, I get why he's making it.
It's effective, apparently.
I get why he's making it in the vein of the speech, but it just doesn't make much sense when you step out and you look at what's been called taking away your right to vote in recent memory.
And the next quote, Dave, is just good comedy that we're going to have fun with because it's something that everyone has fun with. We're going to end cancer as we know it. Mark my words. This is now, I think, the 5th or 6th time since he's campaigned that he said he's going to end cancer. Dave, has there been any progress?
Wait, did he say that? He said that in his speech again? I had no idea he said that in his speech again.
He said that in the speech.
That's hilarious.
Considering, so 4 weeks ago he had cancer, and now he's ending it again. I think Stuber Gear from The Blaze has Joe Biden ended cancer.com, and it updates on whether or not he's ended cancer, and usually it just says no.
Oh my God. I had no idea. So full disclosure, obviously everyone knows it now. I did not watch this speech because there's no reason to watch. I know most of the things he's going to say. I did not know he was going to say this again. What is wrong with this? Why? This is the most hyperbolic thing that's always said in like any TV show or movie with people running. There's like, oh yeah, we're going to end cancer. Like it's the dumbest thing ever because everyone knows it's not going to happen.
He also has no power to do that. What power does the president of the United States have to end cancer? Like, is he really going to shack up the big pharma that much and give them billions upon billions more for research? Wouldn't surprise me, but I haven't seen any progress in that yet. Dave, have you heard of a single thing? I've gotten into reading bills lately, right? I read a lot of bills now. Mm-hmm. I have not seen a single bill put up forth to fund heavily cancer research. There's little minor nicks and dimes here where research is going into here and there, but nothing in terms of like the probably hundreds of billions necessary to fund cancer research. And also, Joe, which one? Which cancer are we talking about?
Well, cancer as we know it, so all cancer.
Yeah, all cancer apparently.
It has to be. And cancer as we know it is all cancer.
But they're all different. What works for breast cancer isn't going to work for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's not going to work for ass cancer. It's not going to work like throat cancer, lung cancer. They're all. So what if...
We should have ended on this quote because it's hilarious. I can't believe they're still doing this. There's no way. There's no way a speechwriter wrote this in. There is no way they wrote this in. He definitely just said it in. 100%. He definitely just said it because no speechwriter would want to put. That's just the dumbest thing ever to say.
So anyone in media, if anybody has Jill's face after he says that, did anybody pan to Jill Biden's face after he said? So you know what? Actually, what we need to do, Dave, honestly. This needs to happen. We maybe need to start going to all Joe Biden speech. We need to have a Joe cam. We're fuck what Joe Biden is saying. Don't put your focus on Joe Biden to just see her face and what she looks like every time he says something stupid or every time he gaffes. I feel like that would be actual comedy gold.
I can't believe he's still saying this. This is blowing my mind. Like this is. It's been way too far in his presidency. The fact that he said on a campaign
almost 4 years ridiculous. And he's consistently said it for 4 years.
Oh my God. I don't know if I can make it through the rest of this. That's blown my mind that he said this again.
But we're going to try. We're going to listen. If Joe Biden ends cancer, then everything else is forgiven. You can make us into a communist country. You can fucking make us collectivists. I will wait on bread lines. You cured cancer, dude. You're in. But apparently there has been no progress that I've known of. He can't even actually contain COVID. He failed at that miserably. But he's going to cure cancer, Dave. Anyway,
I'm losing my mind. Go ahead.
Let's keep going. So next quote here. But history and common sense tell us that opportunity, liberty, and justice for all are most likely to come to pass in a democracy. No. History tells you that democracy ends in dictatorship every single time. So there is no way that opportunity, liberty, and justice for all come from a democracy. What history has told us that our version of a constitutional republic is what has led to opportunity, the most ever. The middle class was made famous and created by America. Liberty, which is what we are actually based off of, not equality, not anything else. Liberty is if you want to put America down as one word, it is liberty from a whole lot of things. Freedom. That is what we are. And again, democracy isn't about freedom. Democracy is mob rule. Mob rule can never lead to freedom. Tyranny majority. And lastly is justice. Justice is not achieved in a democracy. Again, tyranny of majority, tyranny of the proletariat is not a form of justice. So this is just a factually incorrect statement. And again, Dave, this is why I say that they know what the fuck they're doing when they say democracy all the time. Where you say, maybe it's just this. When they say things like this, then you know that what they're going for here is what they are trying to say is what Karl Marx tried to argue, what Hegel tried to argue, what after him, Herbert Marcuse and all these type of other neo-fucking Marxist thinkers have tried to argue. And now since then, Bernie Sanders, AOC, our current crop of Marxists are trying to argue this same exact thing, Dave, which is why I cannot give them the benefit of the doubt, Dave.
That's fair. I'm still a little stuck on that cancer thing. I'm not going to lie to you. I agree with most of what you were saying there, but I'm still stuck on that cancer thing. I'm absolutely. I think out of everything I've seen out of that speech, that it's blown me away more than anything else. The optics, everything else, I can kind of see that coming. It's like it's maybe somewhat shocking, really not that shocking. That being said, in this speech, that's shocking. That's ridiculous.
Are you going to have no more comments for anything else? Or
I'm going to have. I'll have comments. I'll have comments, but I just can't believe that. I cannot. Keep going. Just keep going.
All right. So we have two more quotes coming here. So hang with me. The idea that America guarantees that everyone be treated with dignity. What? It gives hate no safe harbor.
What?
It installs in everyone the belief that no matter where you start in life, there is nothing you can't achieve. That last line, true. That's the American dream. The first two, absolute fucking lies. It gives hate no safe harbor. This is what's up?
It turned me into Stone Cold Steve Austin. I kept saying what?
Yeah. This is the only place in the world where hate is actually safe, which is weird to say. But you can say something absolutely hateful as long as it's not a threat to somebody's well-being. It is protected by our Constitution.
And as long as it's not an active threat. As long as it's not actually sending or actually going towards someone, because you could say
I'm going to kill XXX. You can't say that.
Yeah, but you could say a lot of things.
Yeah, you could say I want somebody dead. You could say I wish somebody was dead. You can publicly go out and say I wish whatever figure or this person was dead right now. And we are the only country. And again, if you listen to shows, like listening to Lotus Eaters is actually very enlightening, because you find out how strong the First Amendment is in this country and how free we are. Because you find out in Canada, they actually give what they personify as hate no safe harbor. Because if you say something that the state believes is hateful, you can be jailed. You go to England, you do the same thing. They have no blasphemy laws. You say things against Muhammad and you're fucked in UK, which is incredible. Think about it. But if you say something against Muhammad, the Muslim leader, even in jest, they can jail you. Here, you could say whatever the fuck you want. Hate actually has safe harbor in this country, whether we like it or not. But that's a good thing. That is a good thing, because that's part of freedom of speech. You need to be able to say things that people don't like and not be put in jail for them. That's just what we're based off of.
The point's been made 1,000 times before, but that's the point of freedom of speech.
Yes.
If someone was saying something you liked, you wouldn't care in the first place. But the point of freedom of speech is for someone to say something that you absolutely believe that no one should ever say. That is what it's for. Because it's for something that you believe is so terrible that you might not be able to stay in the same room. You might not be able to listen to that person for the rest of your life, but they're allowed to say that. That is what freedom of speech is for.
You can have somebody sitting there and saying, I believe that everyone deserves a fair chance in life and no one should be murdered. And standing right next to you can be a neo-Nazi going, no, fuck all Jews. They should all die. And that neo-Nazi is protected. As much as it is a screwed up thing to say. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, I'll fight for the right of that neo-Nazi to say it, because that gives everybody else the rights to say what they want. And again, it might be screwed up, but that right there, that line, it gives hate no safe harbor, is a lie. And the idea that America guarantees that everyone be treated with dignity, again, is a lie. That is not correct. It guarantees life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that the state will do its best to protect your life. That is the contract. You give us some taxes, we pay for you. That's the basis of contract of a city state and its people. Liberty, again, we talk about the basis, freedoms mapped out in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, and the pursuit of happiness. It is up to you to pursue what you'd like, and the state is not going to stand in your way of doing it. Now, what happens in between there, between you and your fellow constituency, is none of the state's fucking business. So no, it does not guarantee that everybody be treated with dignity. It guarantees that you have the opportunity to succeed and be happy. without the state interfering. And what is he saying there? That the state is going to guarantee that you are going to be treated with dignity. That is a statist remark. And whether or not people are saying, well, Alex, you're reading into it. It's just him trying to say something nice. That's just you being fucking naive and not knowing your history. Bottom line. And not knowing what you're talking about and not taking the context of the rest of the speech and putting it where it belongs. Dave, any more after my tirade?
No, I already got my thoughts in.
All right. And the last quote, we're going to leave you on a true Joe Biden gem because no one ends a speech like Joe Biden. Let's do it. And may God protect our nation. And may God protect all those who stand over our democracy. Not a bad start, Joe. I wouldn't say democracy, but at least you haven't done anything yet. Let's keep going. God bless you all. Democracy. Thank you. It's like democracy is like the name of like the town that he just did a show in. God bless you all. Democracy. You're all beautiful. Good night. Like, what is this guy? Like, this is what you idiots elected? 81 million morons. You fucking elected this. This is what you elected.
I will say that is something that Trump might have done, but it would have probably been funnier because Trump usually tries to when he says something dumb, it's usually a little funnier and it's not at the point where you're worrying about him. Biden, you're worrying about him because of other things that's happened.
When I saw that, Dave, all I thought of was Team America World Police Matt Damon. Like, he can only say democracy. Matt Damon, democracy. Like, that's all I thought of. And yeah, that's ending a Biden speech the right way.
But honestly, funny enough, yet again, though, it's like he can go through a part of a speech where it sounds fine, and he just completely destroys it. It just messes it up. Why?
I wonder if they, you know what though? Did they actually write that? Because I wouldn't put it past
him.
Look at the speech. Look at the speech. Look at the speech. The speech is a bad speech. It's a shit speech. They might have done that because they might have been like, emphasize democracy one more time, Joe.
They might have said emphasize democracy, but they did not tell him to just say democracy.
Which is, I don't know, that might be right up there with the Howard Dean. Like, just the fact that he's just like democracy. Like,
no, it won't destroy Biden like that destroyed Dean.
Honestly,
that destroyed Dean.
That did destroy Howard Dean. But yeah, so I figured, and you know, Dave, just so we know, we're gonna end cancer as we know it. Mark Joe Biden's words.
I mean, I whatever you're gonna say, my farewell words. It's that right there. I'm still dumbfounded. Like I am gonna not be able to sleep for a while tonight, just thinking of how you still say this at this point in your presidency.
So before we close out, you wanted to talk about you mentioned about the name Soul of a Nation, right?
Yeah.
When I heard that name, one thing popped to my head, and that's Woodrow Wilson, Democratic president, who was the person who brought back the fucking KKK, resegregated the White House after it was unsegregated. And he brought back the KKK by bringing in former KKK leaders after it was already disbanded and showing a movie named Birth of a Nation. When I saw Soul of a Nation with a Democratic president, and then after this authoritarian segregation speech where he's actually segregating a population by making an us versus them, because honestly, take away MAGA Republican and insert Jews, and take away any time he says democracy or American and insert, you know, the Reich and, you know, Germans, and you have a fucking Hitler speech. I digress. But when I saw Soul of a Nation, that's what I thought. And, you know, it just came to remind me, Dave, let's recount just what I can remember. All the things that the leftists have done in kind of recent memory. Fairly recent in America. So let's just go through this because we talk about party switches, Dave. And let's just go to show that they've never changed their stripes here. So, Dave, you can keep check here. Slavery on the left, right? The Democrats did that one. Jim Crow segregation. I mean, we're seeing it again. Democrats did that one. KKK just talked about it. They were a bunch of Dems. Internment camps, FDR. That's him. Trail of Tears, Andrew Jackson. They love the indigenous people so much now. They love them so much that they moved them and murdered a shit ton of them. Andrew Jackson, one of the Democrat, you know, people hate him now. He was a big hero for a long time. And now history is not too far behind because you look at the Weather Underground. We talked about them. They bombed, they bombed the Capitol. They bombed the Capitol building, and they want to call the terrorists. And then, if we really want to go back, Dave, really far in our memories, the BLM riots. We talked about those. The Chaz zones. Leftists took over parts of our country and called them their own country. Realize this. We had mini civil wars to get back our country. We negotiated peacefully to get it back. And that's the reality of it, Dave. We had basically when Peter made Peterstan or whatever it was, Petopia, and named them a foreign, that can be done. And America just goes and takes it back. But legitimately, there were a few zones in America for a small period of time, few blocks, which were not America for a little bit during the Summer of Love. That's just the fact of it. So they did Chaz zones. They went to D.C. and burnt down a church. Well, President Trump was there. And he had to go hide in a bunker and got made fun of for it. And now I would put the red sermon up there. I would put Soul of a Nation as something that they have done that will be remembered, because this is the most divisive speech since Abraham Lincoln intentionally gave the divisive speech during the Civil War to say that they, and it wasn't even that divisive. It said we're going to war with them to bring the Union back. That was his goal, to defeat the South, to bring them back into the Union. What's Biden's goal here? I can tell you, everyone, easy. It's to put everyone against all of people that voted for Trump and anyone that's thinking of voting for Trump or someone that's associated with Trump, and to say that you are the evil ones. And that's it. Dave, anything else besides Joe Biden's going to cure cancer? Any other last words?
No, that's literally it. I'm just waiting for him to cure cancer. I can't believe he's still mentioning it. I really can't. It's good. He's definitely going to mention it again. He's definitely going to mention it. Is someone writing this in there, or is he just saying this? I need to know. This is something I really need to know now.
So we need to launch a new investigation on Joe Biden curing cancer, and if he's saying it on his own, and we also need a Joe Cam. I think a Joe Cam would do really well during these speeches.
It just blows my mind, man.
What do you think her face was as he said it again?
I don't know. I don't even think she listens to him anymore, really. Because how could you? Oh my God. That's really weighing on me. It just makes no sense for you to say that.
He lost his extra serving of pudding because he mentioned it again. They tell him you don't get an extra serving of pudding if you mention the cancer thing again. He lost it. I did about pudding. I did what you asked. I went on all those drugs. I yelled. All right, everybody. I appreciate everyone listening to this fun-filled, happy episode of the Alex Cuesta Show. If you like what you heard, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes, spread a word of mouth. Go follow us on the socials. I'll be posting up that video for anybody who wants to find it with our awesome quote from our fearless president who is going to cure cancer. Dave, every week we're going to find out if Joe Biden's cured cancer. We're going to go on the website and we're going to find out. We're going to give an update to everyone how far along, if he's far along at all. Maybe I'll look up some news clippings to see if Joe Biden's put any sort of money towards curing cancer. Honestly, I'll get behind him. I will support Joe Biden if he legitimately is doing
I agree with you. If he cures cancer, that's really a huge step. That's a legitimately huge step. I'll switch parties. Democrats cure cancer, I'm in. That's incredible if you cure cancer, man.
I'm in.
I just can't believe he's still mentioning it.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back. We got a bunch of good guests coming up actually lined up, so we're really excited for that. So tune in for the next time, and we shall talk to everyone later. So long, y'all.